A new president has been hired, and there are high expectations that she will forge stability and focus while continuing to progress our state's only four-year public university. Dr. Laurie Nichols joined our Pat Wolfenbarger earlier while she was recently visiting campus.
So Dr. Nichols, when is your official start date?
I'll be starting on May 16th.
May 16th?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing now to familiarize yourself with the University of Wyoming?
Well, the university has really put together a nice transition plan, and so actually being here right now is the beginning of my campus visits back. I'll be here today and tomorrow, then I'll be back in, February 19th and 20th for another visit on campus, and I'll also spend a little bit of time in in Cheyenne during that time, and then I'll be back in March, and in March it'll be for the Board of Trustees meeting. And then in April, I'll be back probably for a week, and I will come back when they're interviewing the provost finalist and participate in that campus visit and selection process.
So you'll have some idea who the next provost will be.
Oh, yes.
Who will be working with you on the academic side of the university.
Yes, I've been really quite involved with that. After I was named president, I started visiting with the Board of Trustees about going ahead and starting that search now rather than waiting. We knew if we waited until fall that it would be another year. So we decided to go ahead and go, and so I've really been quite engaged with that whole process.
You know, when you were here visiting campus as a candidate, you talked about your observation of the University of Wyoming having a unique relationship with the state, with the legislature, with other groups. Tell us your view of that.
Well, what's so unique about Wyoming, and I know Wyoming knows this, but that you have one four-year university for the entire state, and many states don't have that kind of a setup. So it does make it very unique in that it's really a single relationship, in that the people of the state really need the University of Wyoming to be the university for them, and obviously to help them in all the things that universities do, including economic development, workforce preparation, and research. So I think it's really a very unique situation, and obviously because of that, I think the relationship between the legislature, the Board of Trustees, and probably even the alumni base is incredibly close. People here are very passionate about the university.
You know, when they look at your experience in higher education, you've worked with just about every segment of a university you can. Academics and research and outreach and extension, the student relations, alumni relations, athletics, fundraising. How do you look at pursuing excellence in those areas, and you know, what are you learning about the University of Wyoming in those areas as well?
Well, the first thing I would just say is the University of Wyoming has a very strong reputation, and sometimes I think when you're inside the state you don't always realize how people outside the state view you, but you do have a very strong reputation already. I think the university is really known for quality. But you're absolutely right in that when you're trying to pursue excellence, you have to think about that strategically. So one of the things that I've heard since I've been here is that maybe the University of Wyoming is trying to be too much, and maybe trying to be all things to all people, and it may be a time to take a look at that and see if there is a need to try to more strategically think about what the university should be offering and what areas to focus on for centers of excellence, initiatives, and things of that nature. And I think that's really true. I think any university has to do that because you never have enough resources to do everything. Having said that, I would say that there's already been quite a movement in Wyoming to do that. And I think the people here are fairly aware of the science initiative. I know there has been quite a bit of work around the College of Engineering and an engineering initiative. Now there's an education initiative. So those really are opportunities to really try to raise up programs and really create excellence around them. So there is already some of that going on.
When you look at the challenges that are facing the University of Wyoming, of course, the state's financial situation.
Right.
And what you just discussed was the initiatives that are underway, as well as a program review.
Right.
How do you tie all of that together? Here we are looking at, the university's looking at these new initiatives, but yet at the same time is being challenged with reducing programs and making some budget reductions.
Right. And you really do have to pull it all together. And I think that's really part of what a planning process will do for you. So one of the things that I talked a lot about when I interviewed here was the fact that it was probably time for the University of Wyoming to really kind of take a step back and pull together a really strong university strategic plan where these things actually come out. So a lot of the work that's happened will fold right into a strategic plan. It's not like you walk away from it. So many of those initiatives really become part of the excellence that you build into it, but you also, there's a lot more that you do as well. So I think a planning process will really do much of what you're talking about, really pull it together and help you understand what is the direction and what do we do. Having said that, there is an academic program review underway right now, being led by the current leadership. The Provost, David Jones, is working on that with the deans. And they've kept me informed, and I understand that they're working away at gathering information on every program, and that there will be an evaluation that will occur throughout the semester as that process moves forward. And I encourage them to do it, because really most universities do that on an ongoing basis anyways.
Now, you have experience in dealing with program
Yes.
changes, budget reductions, strategic planning. South Dakota State University, you had to deal with a 10% budget cut. It's
Right.
not quite as dramatic as what the university is going through right now, but
Right.
how does your experience prepare you for the role that you're going to have to play in making some decisions and providing guidance?
Well, I think anytime you've had that experience, you've been through it, you can draw on it the next time it happens. So I feel very blessed in a way that I have been through it. I mean, when I went through it the first time, I thought, oh, I hope I never have to do this again. But now that I'm here and that I'm seeing that this is really a process that Wyoming needs to do, I think it's really fortunate that I had that experience there. And one of the things that we learned when we went through this in South Dakota is that actually to review your programs on an ongoing basis, not every year, but maybe every 3 years or every 5 years, is a really good thing. And so we've actually kept that process in place. We do this now periodically because it really helps you keep an eye on what programs you're offering, what these programs are doing, the productivity of them, the outcomes you're getting, and it helps you kind of on an ongoing basis keep trimming programs, realigning programs, maybe combining programs, so that it doesn't become this grand event one day, but it's actually more of an ongoing process that you use all the time.
What message do you have for faculty? Obviously, you've had a relationship with the faculty, being, of course, going up through the ranks as you have to become provost. What's the message you have for faculty and how you are going to work with them as president?
I do look forward to working with the faculty. As provost, I work with our faculty at South Dakota State all the time, and it's really one of my favorite parts of my job. So, what I would just say is I'm really looking forward to get to know the faculty, spending time with them so that I understand who they are and the programs that they represent, the types of work that they do. The faculty is the heart and the soul of the university. I always say that universities are built on the strength of faculty, and I think it really is true. And so, really keeping the faculty engaged, keeping them very, I think, motivated, making sure they know that we appreciate the good work that they're doing, and that we're here, that I'm really here to support them and help them even become stronger in what they're doing.
How did faculty contribute to the decisions that you had to make at the South Dakota State?
They were very engaged, and that's probably a message that I'd send to the faculty here is be engaged, because I think that's a really important part of it. But really the program review happens by the faculty. So when you think about, well, who's doing this program review, it's the faculty that does it. So we give them parameters, they have a template, they have certain things they have to look at and produce on this program review, but really they're doing the work. And then ultimately we ask them for a set of recommendations. So even we would ask the recommendations to come from the faculty.
When you look at the makeup of the university, you talked about its unique relationship. What about communicating with the people of Wyoming? I know it's easy to communicate with the legislature, and because it's 90 people that you can define, but communicating with the people of the state to let them know about what's happening at the university, since it is the only university in the state.
Right. And I know that's really important here because, as I mentioned earlier, I know the people in Wyoming are very passionate about the University of Wyoming. I think my strategy is, much like many land-grant universities, is you really do need to be engaged with the state. That's really the mission of a land-grant university, is that outreach and engagement with the entire state. And my philosophy doesn't veer off that much. So it's really staying, getting out across the state, and I do plan to do that this summer. We've already talked about sort of a tour of Wyoming where I can get out to the communities and meet with the alumni and the community leaders and so forth. And then I think from there on, it's just kind of making sure that from time to time, when either there's events going on in communities that are important to them, or when there's times when it's just natural to be out in the state, that I get out there. And that it's not everybody always coming to Laramie, but part of it is the university going out across the state too. And I'm very interested in doing that. I would love to get out and see Extension. I know Extension's an important part of a land-grant university, and it is in Wyoming as well, and I'm very excited to get out and do that. I need to get up and see the Casper campus, and I'm very excited to do that. And then we have a great community college system in Wyoming, and I've already been in touch with several of the presidents of community colleges, and I've told every one of them that I'm very anxious to come and see their community college and to have a tour and just to learn about the programs they have and what they're doing and how we can really even strengthen what probably is already a good partnership, but even try to take that to the next level as well.
Diversity is a topic that all institutions in higher education are dealing with now. How do you look at diversity, the types of things that the University of Wyoming are going to have in faculty and staff and students are going to have to deal with as we look at some of these diversity issues? Mm-hmm. I know that South Dakota, like Wyoming, you had programs with the Native American groups mm-hmm. to help encourage them for higher education and other initiatives.
Right.
How do you look at things here so far and the challenges UW faces?
Right. Well, in many ways, I think that's a place where South Dakota and Wyoming are quite similar. And again, things that I've done in South Dakota, I think could in some ways at least carry over or inform the work that I could do here. I think reaching out to the reservation and being engaged with the tribal people is critical. And that is something that I have spent a lot of time on in South Dakota. I love that work. And I'm really excited to see, what's happening here already. And then again, what would be things that we could build on. We'd created a program in South Dakota called the 2+2+2, and it was really just a pipeline or articulation program that started with tribal high schools and worked with students, especially when they were like sophomores, juniors, and seniors thinking about going on to college. Then 2 years at the tribal college for an associate degree, which is for the most part what they offered at that time, and then on to South Dakota State for a baccalaureate degree. And in all of that, we tried to make sure that it was incredibly streamlined so that students didn't lose credits and that they could stay on track for 2 years at each of those ladders. And we had some fair success with that. And then from that, we found that it really snowballed into other kinds of programs, because once you're out working, across the tribe and with tribal colleges, you really do learn about other needs, and you can be responsive then at that point in time. So whether that exact program would work here or not, I'm not sure, but it's sort of that idea of getting out and visiting and exploring ideas and then creating programs that would be responsive, and I'm excited to do that. I don't think that's the only diversity initiative that needs to happen, I just want to say, but I always say I think it's important to start at home. And by that I just mean look at the diversity in the state and make sure that whatever the population of the state is, we should be somewhat reflective of that at the University of Wyoming. And so making sure that whatever that is, that we're being attentive to it is important.
You talk about the passion the people of the state have for the university. Athletics is one of the major passions, and of course, in a time when you're talking about making some resource allocation decisions, what role do you see athletics playing at the university?
I think athletics is a critical part of a vibrant university like the University of Wyoming, and that's mostly because people get so enthused about athletics. And as you well know, there's many boosters out there, there's a lot of athletic fans. It's sort of the thing that can really kind of conjure excitement. It's a gathering force. People kind of can gather around the university around athletics. And so I think it's a critical part. And I know sometimes people feel like when you're in a budget cutting mode, why are you funding athletics? But the reality is it's a critical and integral part of a 4-year university like the University of Wyoming.
Any thoughts about other funding alternatives that the university might take a look at in the future?
You know, I think and again, you need to know I'm brand new, so I'm really learning right now. So it's hard for me to jump in and to talk specifically about things. But I would say in general, I think it's a time to just look at the overall operations of the university to see where efficiencies can be gained. And I have heard bits and pieces already from people as I've been visiting about, you know, people on this campus have ideas, and it's probably just a time to really explore those ideas and see if there's just a little tightening that can be done. Because sometimes just by looking at inefficiencies, you can gain more money in tightening your budget than even if you go out and cut a program. So I think there's some of that needs to happen as well, and I'm sure that will all happen as this moves forward.
Well, thank you so much for talking with us today. It's a pleasure to have you here at the University of Wyoming.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.